Hi, this is Richard Fields with this week's report from the fields. Affordability seems to be the new thematic starting point for politicians of all stripes. Mem Denny made the affordability of everything from bus rides to rent to sidewalk vendor food a focus of his successful mayoral campaign in New York. Never mind that his nostrums, free buses, rent control, free daycare, etc., will assuredly make things even more unaffordable over the long run. Even President Trump has figured out that affordability is an issue. Unfortunately, he has not figured out that import sales taxes, a smaller workforce because of the deportation of workers, and an inflationary monetary policy to enable it all are what causes unaffordability. Instead, like Democrats, he is trotting out solutions that will seem to help in the short run, but exacerbate the problem long run. For example, 50-year mortgages. Trump is trumpeting that he's the best president since FDR for suggesting 50-year mortgages. Well, maybe, not a high bar, but let's run the numbers. Buying a $500,000 house with 20% down using a 50-year mortgage instead of a 30-year mortgage will save about $251 in monthly payments. But as stellar economist Thomas Sowell is fond of saying, there are no solutions, only trade-offs. What's the trade-off here? Well, an extra $409,300 in interest paid over the life of the loan, or almost twice as much interest. Considering that a longer-term loan will carry a higher interest rate due to higher lender risk, it's almost certain to double the interest paid and further reduce the difference in the monthly payment. But wait a minute, 50 years? If you buy a house in your late 20s, you won't pay it off until your late 70s. How is that better than paying rent? At least if you're paying rent, the landlord is paying to reshingle the roof. Maybe Trump is getting his 50-year mortgage advice from Peter Navarro, the same crackpot economist that is advising him on tariffs and how a tax on imports won't ultimately be paid by the consumer of said imports. Also, as anyone who has taken Econ 101 knows, decreasing the supply of something will increase its cost. Trump is fanatically deporting immigrants. Maybe he's also taking economic advice from Stephen Miller, his advisor on immigration. Miller is not satisfied with booting out so-called illegal immigrants. He also wants to end birthright citizenship, a long-established principle of constitutional law, and further restrict legal immigration. That would really shrink the supply of labor and contribute to unaffordability in consumer prices. Or maybe Trump is getting his affordability advice from Stephen Moran, his chair of the White House Council of Economic Advisors, now appointed to a seat on the Federal Reserve. Moran's first vote on interest rates was to lower interest rates even more than what the Fed decided to do. Lower interest rates generally means more money being lent. In today's environment, mostly being lent to the government. That enables even more federal deficit spending, which is decidedly inflationary and contributes to the affordability problem. There is really only one solution, trade-off to the affordability problem. That would be reducing government spending to taxes raised and a 0% rate of inflation for inflation by the Fed rather than the current 2%, which cuts the value of your money in half in 35 years. Democrats and Republicans either don't understand that or are willfully ignoring it. Libertarians do understand it. That's this week's report from the fields. I'm Richard Fields. See you again next week.